yena characharam tatpadam darshitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupaswarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakhyam Namami Bhaktashaktikam. Namah Pankajanabhaya Namah Pankajamaline Namah Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajangraye Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Sarvebhyo Namaha, Sarvesham Krute Swagatam. We are now in the 10th chapter. We have completed up to the 18th shloka in the last session. So I will revise the last 4 shlokas that we did. Arjuna spoke 7 shlokas actually, but I will revise the last 4 because that's where Arjuna says what he wants to hear. Vaktum arhasya seshena divyahi atma vibhutayah yabhir vibhutivir lokan imam stvam vyapya tishtasi. So he says, Arjuna is saying to Krishna, after hearing from Krishna about Krishna's splendor, Krishna has just described that, I am the source of everything. Everything comes from me. The great rishis and the devas, they don't know me. Because I am their origin. They are like my children. So just like small children don't understand their father, right? So they don't know me. So after saying all this, Arjuna is awed and then he's asking Krishna that I want to hear more about you. So he says, please describe now exhaustively. Katam vidyamaham yogin stvam sada parichintayan keshu keshu cha bhaveshu chintyosi bhagavan maya. So how can I know you better? In what ways should I think about you? Vistarena atmano yogam vibhutim cha janardana bhuyah kataya triptirhi shrinvato nasti me vratam. So he says that please describe yourself exhaustively, your vibhutis. Vibhuti means a splendor or magnificence, what stands out, what makes that person stand out from the others. That's called a vibhuti. For example, in this world, there are certain people who stand out from the rest of the people in any given profession or art or something. Let's take, for example, the world of acting. Okay, that's very common. We all know about it. So let's take a personality like Amitabh Bachchan. Okay, now, Amitabh Bachchan is a well-known character. Everybody knows about him, and he is very respected. Okay, now, if you ask people, why do you respect him? Why do you like him so much? People like him. Now, they'll say that the way he acts, he can play different roles, and he has played over 50 years. He's very flexible. He's also a very good personality. He's very kind. He knows how to talk to people. He knows how to respect others. So they will talk about so many good qualities about him that make him stand out from the rest of the people. There are very few people like him. And even if there is somebody like him, they may not be perfectly like him. They may have some of his qualities, but not matching him. So in this way, vibhuti is that which is something that is standing out about that person, that makes that person distinct from the others and makes others develop an awe for him. Okay, so now why is this relevant in the Bhagavad-Gita? Now in the Bhagavad-Gita is a book about yoga, connecting with God. And like I have been saying, very broadly, 2 systems of yoga are talked about in the Gita. One is called the system of karma yoga followed by jnana yoga. That's one path. And the other path is the path of bhakti. So on the path of bhakti, there are different ways in which people become attracted. Bhakti is based on attraction towards that entity towards which we have bhakti. Okay, in this case, it is Krishna, Bhagavan. So if we have to become attracted to Krishna, there are different motivational factors which attract us towards Krishna. And one of them is awe. Just like we become attracted to any other human being out of awe for that person, his qualities, his or her qualities. In the same way, becoming attracted to Bhagavan can happen through awe for Bhagavan, to knowing about his awesome qualities, his splendorous, magnificent qualities. So now the conversation between Krishna and Arjuna has reached that point where Krishna mentioned some of his splendors. And then Arjuna says, I want to know more. So the 10th chapter is devoted towards that. And in the 10th chapter, he's going to elaborate more on that. Right? So he begins with certain things which I'm going to cover today. I'm going to cover 2 shlokas today. And after that, he will talk about how, among different classes of entities, he stands out in that. Okay, the rest of the 10th chapter will go in that manner. And in the 11th chapter, Arjuna, having heard all that, whatever Sri Bhagavan narrates in the 10th chapter, Arjuna is even further, in a state of awe. So he says that, you have said all these things. Now, please, can you show me that form? You talked about that form, and can you show me that form? And in the 11th chapter, the Vishwarupa of Bhagavan is displayed. Okay, so we'll talk more about that when we come there. So today, Sri Bhagavan is beginning to respond to Arjuna's pleas. Hantate kateshyami, Sri Bhagavan uvacha. Hantate kateshyami, divya hi atma vibhutaya. Pradhanyatah kurusreshta nastyanto vistarasya me. Sri Bhagavan uvacha. Okay, that's how I have titled my classes also. This course is called Sri Bhagavan uvacha. So what does uvacha mean? Uvacha means basically said in Sanskrit. It's called the lit rupa. Lit means paroksha. It means something that happened in the long distant past. Bhagavan uvacha. Hanta. Hanta is an expression used in Sanskrit, which is like in English when we speak, sometimes we say, oh, in the middle of a sentence. Or in a conversation, we say, oh, sure. Or we say, oh, certainly, we'll do it. Okay. So those are called interjectives. Means they don't really form a part of the sentence, but we just insert them in between 2 sentences or when we respond to somebody. So hanta is used like that in Sanskrit. Hanta. So definitely, certainly, I will respond. I will tell you what you want to know. Hanta te kathayishyami. So this hanta here is spoken out of compassion. That's what is pointed out by both Vishwanath Chakravarti and Baladev Vidyabhushan, out of anukampa. He's feeling that, see, this person, he's coming here to fight this war. Now he's totally confused. He says he wants to leave and go away. And I'm trying to somehow motivate him to not leave his duty and fight the war. And in between, this conversation is happening. So now he's sincerely asking me. So he's feeling so much affection, compassion for that disciple of his called Arjuna. So hanta te kathayishyami. I will now tell you, I will describe to you Divyaha, divine, he Atma Vibhutayaha, my own vibhutis. I will describe to you my own vibhutis, which are all divine in nature. But I can't describe all of them because Pradhanyata, he says, I'll describe the most prominent ones only. Pradhanyata. Pradhanyata, O Kurusreshta, O greatest among the Kurus. Because Nastyanto Vistarasya me, my Vistar. Vistar means what? In Hindi also Vistar means the expanse, the spread of something, right? Vistar. So in Sanskrit, Vistar or Vistar, Vistara, Vistaraha, Vistaraha, both are same. So Vistaraha, Mama Vistaraha, Tasya na antaha asti. Tasya kadapi na antaha asti. There's no end to it. There's no end to my expanse. Okay, that's another way of saying I'm infinite. I'm infinite. So if I'm infinite and if my vibhutis are infinite, then how can I describe that, all of that to you? Not possible, right? And that too now, right now, that's not the time for it also. We're supposed to start a war. We've blown our conch also. We're waiting for that to start. So I'm going to give you a sample, a small sample, just to give you a feel for what I am, what my vibhutis are. So Sri Bhagavan Vacha, Hantate Katayishyami, Divyahi Atma Vibhutayah, Pradhanyatah Kurushreshta, Nastyanto Vistarasya me. Sri Bhagavan said, O Kurushreshta, the best among the Kurus, I will indeed describe to you my divine splendors, but only those that are prominent, since there exists no end to my expanse. And then he says, Aham Atma Gudakesha Sarva Bhuta Ashaya Sthitah Aham Adishcha Madhyam Cha Bhutanam Anta Cha. So before going into describing the sample that he wants to give, individual splendors, he gives an overview. So by giving this overview, he says, Aham Atma. Atma means that which resides inside something, the core, the essence. Okay? That's called the Atma. Oh, Gudakesha. Gudakesha is a term used to address Arjuna. Gudaka in Sanskrit also means sleep. And Arjuna is called Gudakayaha Ishaha. Means a person who has mastered sleep. He is beyond sleep. He does not need to sleep like us. Okay, for all of us need to sleep because it's part of the biological requirement, psychological requirement. If we don't sleep, let's say maybe one day we can manage, 2 days maybe at most, but after that, we'll start breaking down. The mind, the body also will start breaking down. Right? So we need to sleep, and sleep is essential for good physical and mental health. In the case of Arjuna, in the case of yogis, the sleep comes down because of their practice of yoga. The mind becomes very calm. Sattva guna develops. Okay, in the technical language, tamo guna, rajo guna decrease, and sattva guna increases when yoga is practiced. When proper yoga is practiced, and diet, sleep, etc. are controlled, then sattva guna develops. Because of which, things like the requirement for sleep, which is a function of tamo guna, that comes down. And when that comes down, the yogi can sleep just maybe 2 hours a night, 3 hours a night, sometimes even less, half an hour, and then continue their work for the rest of the time. In the case of Arjuna, it is described that he did not need even that much. He had completely conquered sleep. Okay, so sometimes there's one particular narrative in Arjuna's biography that it's there in the Mahabharata. It's described that once, because he was such a sincere disciple of Dronacharya, he wanted to please his guru and master the art of Dhanurveda. He was learning. So once they were having their dinner at night, it was dark and there was a lamp, and in the lamp, the light of the lamp, they were all sitting, all the Kauravas, Pandavas, Dronacharya, and they were having their food. And suddenly there was a gust of wind. And when there was a gust of wind, the lamp blew out and it became dark. So Arjuna then realized that even though it has become dark, we are continuing to eat. Our eating has not stopped. So he realized, it had a realization that why is it happening? If we have not stopped eating, we can't see anything. So I can't see where my plate is. I can't see the mouth. But still, with my hand, I'm able to pick up the food and I'm able to find the mouth. And the food is going correctly into the mouth. It's not going into the nose or it's not going elsewhere. So that made him realize that just by virtue of practice, because I've done this so many times, all my life I have been eating from a plate and putting the food into my mouth. That practice has enabled that even without looking at the thing, I can put my food into the correct place and pick it up and put it into the correct place. So that reinforced in him the power of practice, and he said, tonight onwards, I'm going to practice at night, throughout the night, when everybody else is sleeping, so that even in the darkness, I should be able to find my target. So he would stay up the whole night and practice hitting a target at night in darkness, complete darkness, and see whether it's working or not. And he developed that skill. So in the Mahabharata, it's described that there are 7 or 8 different things, and one of them is this, which made Dronacharya extraordinarily happy with Arjuna. Arjuna was his favorite disciple because of all these reasons, among which one of them is this reason. So he's Gudakesha. Aham Atma Gudakesha Sarva Bhutashayastitaha. The simple translation of this is Sarva Bhuta. So the word Bhuta can be understood in different ways. Basic meaning is every living being. Bhutaha means living being. Every living being. Sarva Bhutashaye Stitaha. Ashaya means abode or a resting place. Ashaya. There are multiple meanings of the word Ashaya. Ashaya also can mean desire. Asha. Ashaya, desire. So Ashaya also means a resting place or an abode, and that's the sense in which it's used here. Sarva Bhuta Ashaya, where the Bhuta becomes the Ashaya. And in the Bhuta, Sri Bhagavan is residing. He resides inside that as the Atma of that Bhuta. So Sarva Bhuta Ashaya Stitaha, he resides in every living being as the Atma. Inside that Atma, means inside the Jivatma, Sri Bhagavan is present as the Paramatma. He is a part of it. Jivatma is not independent of the Paramatma. Even though he is distinct from it, he is still inside it. He is a part of it. So this is a simple understanding, and this understanding is elaborated upon by both Vishwanath Chakravarti and Baladev Vidyabhushana, whose commentaries I'm following to explain this. And this is how they explain it. They say that this actually refers to the 3 Purusha avatars of Vishnu. So when this samsara, this material creation, samsara is created, the creation happens, is described in the Bhagavatam and other Puranas also. Basically, Sri Bhagavan resides in the spiritual world, spiritual existence. He has a spiritual existence. He doesn't have a material existence. But for the benefit of the jivas who are in the material existence, he creates this existence and the niyama for which they can make progress, they can come out of it. So the first, most, you can say, elementary, the rudimentary form of creation is outside the universe, within which the universes are contained. So in that, he takes the root of what is called as Mahavishnu. form known as Mahavishnu, also known as Karana Udakashayi Vishnu, Karanodakashayi Vishnu. It's called the causal ocean or the Karanodaka. Karanodaka means it's the basic cause of the material existence. So in that form, his purpose is only to create this material existence. And he creates that by just glancing at that energy, that Shakti, that Jada Shakti. So in that form, he's called Karanodakashayi Vishnu. And it is described that through the pores of his body, okay, as he exhales, through the pores of his skin, the universes come out. So there's not only one universe which we are experiencing, but it's a multiverse, means there are many universes. And they come out when he exhales, and when he inhales again, they go back into it. The destruction happens. Okay? For us, we are living our lifetime, one single lifetime is a very, very small portion of that universe's birth and death. Brahma's lifetime is one full universe lifetime, and each universe has one Brahma. That's how it's described. So Karanodakashayi Vishnu is also described as Sarva Bhutashaya Sthita. So that material energy, Samam Bonam, is called Mula Prakriti. That Mula Prakriti is one form of Sarva Bhuta. So Sri Bhagavan recites that as the essential Atma of that. Okay, then the next level is called Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, in which he enters into each universe and initiates the creation within the universe. That's called Garbhodakashayi, because from his Garbha, he's lying on an ocean, or it's also called Udaka. Udaka means water. And so Garbhodaka means the ocean which is responsible for genesis of that universe. So in that Garbhodaka, from his Garbha, from his navel, a lotus flower comes out. Okay, a conceptual lotus flower. It may not be like the lotus that we see in the pond. Now, in the stem of that lotus, that whole creation rests on that stem. We say 14 lokas are there, Chaturdasha loka. They are planted on that stem, and on the top of that, the lotus flower is there. On the top of the stem is the flower, and on that flower, Brahma of that universe, who is considered the creator, secondary creator, he is placed on that. He lives on the Brahma loka is in the topmost portion where the flower is present. Okay, that's called Garbhodaka Vishnu. And then at the third level, that Garbhodaka Vishnu expands as Kshirodaka Vishnu. Kshirodaka is when Vishnu lies on a Kshirasagara. Kshirasagara is milk ocean. Kshira means milk, or sometimes referred to as sweetened milk. Condensed milk, it becomes sweet. So that's also called Kshira, Khir. So Kshirodakashayi Vishnu is Vishnu who lies on that form. And that form of Vishnu is present as the Paramatma inside every living being. Okay, so three levels of Vishnu: Karanodakashayi, Garbhodakashayi, and Kshirodakashayi. All three are referred to by this. They are called the three Purushavataras of Vishnu. And they are referred Sarva Bhuta Shayastitaha. So through each of them, he enters into that creation that he is creating. So the word Bhuta in a broad sense refers to all of material creation. Okay. And then he says, Aham Adhischa Madhyamcha Bhutanam Antaevacha. Aham Adihi, I am the birth. Okay, for each living being in each lifetime, there is a birth and there is a lifetime, there is a sustenance. When we sustain between birth and death, we live, right? We have a sustenance. And then there is Anta, there is death. So in each birth that we take, we have a Adi, Madhyam, and Anta. So Aham Adhischa Madhyam cha Bhutanam Antaevacha. I am the cause. I am the initiating cause of the birth, the maintenance or the sustenance, and the death of every living being. Aham Adhischa Madhyam cha Bhutanam Antaevacha. Okay, so Shri Bhagavan says, O Gudakesha, one who has conquered sleep, I dwell within the entire material creation and within each living being. Indeed, I am the root cause of the birth, the sustenance, and the death of all living beings. Okay, so Aham Atma Gudakesha, Sarva Bhutashaya Sthitaha, Aham Adischa Madhyam cha Bhutanam Antareva cha. Okay, so with this shloka, he sets the platform for now going into the individual vibhutis, giving examples of those vibhutis. In the next shloka, the 21st shloka, which I'm not covering today, so he will say, for example, he will say, Adityanam Aham Vishnu. Among the 12 Adityas, I am Vishnu. Jyotisham Ravi Anshuman. Among the luminous objects, I am the sun, Ravi Anshuman. So Marichir Marutam Asmi. Among the Maruts, I am Marichi. So like this, he will give sets of living beings or sets of entities, either living or non-living, and sometimes spiritual, not material, and say, I am the excellent one among them. So think of me in that manner. Because Arjuna asked, how should I think about you? How should I think about you in terms of your vibhuti, which will continue to make me feel even more awed by you? Okay, so he points out in each of those sets of entities the best among them. So we will start doing that from the next class onwards. Uh, Today I will continue with the sixth episode of the Bhishma story, because Bhishma is a bhakta of Bhagavan, and the 10th chapter is among the chapters which focus on bhakti. From the 7th chapter to the 12th chapter of Gita, 6 chapters are devoted to building up the knowledge about bhakti towards Bhagavan. Okay, 12th chapter culminates in that. So 10th chapter is right in the middle of that. Okay, earlier Sri Bhagavan said in the 10th chapter itself, in the 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th shlokas, he said, Aham sarvasya prabho mattha sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante ma mudaha bhava samanvitaha matchittaha matgata pranaha bodhayantah parasparam katayantascha mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. People, my bhaktas, they always think about me, they talk about me, they explain to each other about me, right? And what he does in return. So all that he explained in those shlokas. So he's continuing that now. And now Bhishma is an example of a bhakta who saw Bhagavan through the lens of his vibhutis. The understanding that Bhishma has of Bhagavan, his bhakti, Bhishma's bhakti, is the bhakti of vibhuti matva bhakti, where vibhutis of Bhagavan dominate in the mind. The bhakti in awe of Bhagavan. Okay, it's very unlike the bhakti of, let's say, somebody like Balaram or the Gopas in Vrindavan. They don't see Bhagavan through awe. They see Bhagavan as their friend, or their, you can say, their son, like Yashoda sees him as a son. Yashoda doesn't see Bhagavan with awe, right? So different moods of bhakti. And Bhishma sees Bhagavan through the way in which he is describing himself in the 10th chapter. So it's appropriate to talk about his bhakti here. Now, Bhishma's example is also relevant for us, because as individuals who live in this world, see, all of us, we do our different professions, we live, we take responsibility. Some of us are working in the corporate world. Some of us are going to be in academics in the future. One of us is already in academics. So we take different responsibilities. We have to handle different situations, difficult situations all the time. Different types of challenges come. Bhishma's life demonstrates how a person who is fully in the consciousness of God, of Bhagavan, handles responsibilities in a responsible manner as a leader. So his story is very inspirational. So we have seen 5 episodes so far. In the first episode, we saw how Bhishma was born to Ganga and the clause that Ganga had for Shantanu, and eventually she departs with him because Shantanu breaks that rule. And then in the second episode, we saw how she comes back, she gives hands over, and then Shantanu wants to marry Satyavati, and he's not able to, but Bhishma, who at that time is known as Devavrata, a small teenager boy, a young teenager boy, I shouldn't say small, I should say young, a young boy named Devavrata, he resolves that problem by taking the vow of brahmacharya, and also the vow that I will not become the king. I'll give my kingdom to my brothers, whoever is born of Satyavati. And he gets the name of Bhishma. In the third episode, we saw how Bhishma, after son Shantanu is dead, takes the responsibility of marrying his two brothers and settling them and making them king. Both of them he appoints as the king, one after the other, but both of them, through their own follies, they eventually depart early. And so Bhishma is back to square one. He is left with the kingdom with no ruler. He cannot rule, nor can he get married because of the vows he has taken. So in the fourth episode, we saw how he resolves that dilemma by engaging by telling his mother Satyavati to bring Vyasa to perform niyoga. We discussed about what niyoga means, and eventually through the process of niyoga, Dhritarashtra and Pandu and Vidura, 3 children are born to the to 3 different women, Ambika, Ambalika, and the Dasi of Ambika. 3 children are born, and the 2 of them are Kshatriyas. Eventually, one of them, only Pandu, becomes qualified, able, because Dhritarashtra is blind, Vidura is not a Kshatriya. Pandu becomes the one eligible to continue the kingdom, and he becomes the king and rules for some time. So all these were in the Adi Parva of Mahabharata. As I explained earlier, Mahabharata has 18 parvas, and the 19th section also called the Harivamsha. Now, among the 18 parvas, the first one is called Adi Parva. And in the Adi Parva, all these 4 episodes are explained. Now, subsequent to that, the Mahabharata goes into what happened to the Pandavas, because by the end of this, Pandu is born, and then little after this one, Pandu becomes the king, and Pandu gets married, and Bhishma takes the responsibility of marrying Pandu off to, Madri and Kunti. Kunti's marriage, Madri's marriage with Pandu happened. Subsequently, the five Pandavas are born. The four children born to her, three born to Kunti and two to Madri. So five Pandavas are born. The sixth one is not considered as a Pandava because he was born before Kunti's marriage with Pandu. So subsequently, the Mahabharata goes into, after this portion, what happened. It's focused more on the Pandavas than on Bhishma. And then again, in the second parva of Mahabharata, which was our fifth episode in our classes, Bhishma becomes prominent in this tale, where Yudhishthira is now ruling after the initial they're going to the forest. All this happens in the Sabha Parva, second Parva of Mahabharata, where they are sent by Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana to the forest, and they attempt to kill them, but they survive that. Then they go around, they go to Ekachakragram, kill Bakasura, then they go to Drupada's kingdom, Panchala Desha, and they marry Draupadi. Draupadi is brought here. And then they come back and they start ruling. And Yudhishthira's rule is described as super excellent. Just like we talk about Ramarajya, Yudhishthira Rajya also was like that. Everybody was happy. So happy to such an extent that he becomes eligible to perform the Rajasuya Yajna. And in the Rajasuya Yajna, we heard how one of them is very unhappy with the first Arghya offered to Krishna. Bhishma tells Yudhishthira to offer Arghya to Krishna first. And that puts, Shishupala off. And Shishupala is unable to take it. So he starts launching an offensive tirade against all three of them, Yudhishthira, Bhishma, and Krishna. And we discussed in detail all the things which happen. And eventually, Shishupala is beheaded by Krishna. It ultimately culminates in that over 10 different chapters. 10 chapters this tale goes. Okay. Now, in the sixth episode today, we go back to something that happened earlier, but this is narrated later in the Mahabharata. Okay, so all this happens in the second Parva. But after this Parva, there is the third Parva is called the Aranya Parva or the Vana Parva, where the gambling match happens in the Sabha Parva. After the gambling match, they are sent to the forest. And then the Vana Parva, Aranya Parva discusses all that they went through in those 12 years where they were incognito. Sorry, they were not incognito. And then after that is Virat Parva, the 13th year where they stay in the kingdom of Virat, and there they are incognito. And they are not, they just take a disguise and all that. So that is the fourth Parva. It's called the Virat Parva. And then the Udyoga-parva is when after that happens, they come back and say, now we can, you should restore the kingdom. We have fulfilled all the conditions. 13 years that you said I've fulfilled it, everything done. All the boxes tick, check. So please give us back the kingdom. But then we know what happened. Duryodhana says, I won't give you enough space to even put a pin. So then war is inevitable. So in the Udyoga-parva, which is the fifth Parva of Mahabharata, the elaborate arrangements are made for the war. And in those arrangements, discussions between different kings, going to different sides, who will go to this side, who will go to that side. Very elaborate discussions are held, and discussions on dharma also is presented very elaborately. So as a part of that, we are looking at the story of Amba, where this begins when Bhishma and Duryodhana are speaking. There's a conversation between Bhishma and Duryodhana over 20 chapters, very elaborate conversation, in which it begins by Bhishma telling Duryodhana that, look, if Shikandi is present, then I will not kill Shikandi. Then Duryodhana asks, why is that? Because you are, a warrior Kshatriya, and why you will not kill one particular person? So then Bhishma has to explain in elaboration the entire story of Shikandi. Who is Shikandi? What is her origin, and so on. So Shikandi is Amba. So among the three sisters, Amba, Ambika, Ambalika. So he begins in the first of these 20 chapters, which is chapter 173 of the Udyoga-parva. So I'm going to give you a quick overview of this, and then I will summarize, because this particular tale of Amba is, debated upon by people in different ways, whether it is fair to Amba, unfair to Amba, Bhishma is a victim. There's so many different opinions are there on this. So I'll give you my understanding, and then of course you can also give your thoughts on it. So the first of this 20 chapters is Bhishma just narrating what happened, what was also told earlier, but again repeated here. How he goes to the Swayamvara of the king of Kashi, then he brings those three girls. And in the course of that, he has to fight with those kings and Shalva also. And eventually, Amba comes and reveals to him that I am already having a relationship. I'm already in a relationship with Shalva. So please allow me to go to him. My heart is already with him. And he also wants me, but nobody knew it before. Okay. And at this point, Bhishma, he's caught unawares because he did not know. So he then consults his brahmanas. It's a very unique situation. He's not faced this situation before. So he consults the brahmanas and they decide in a simple way that she should be allowed to go to Shalva. That's what is logical. Although we brought all three of them and I brought them, but I have no objection to her going and marrying Shalva. So he gives her escort. And with escorts, she is taken to Shalva. Now, what happens after that is this is chapter 174. And in chapter 175, Shalva does not accept her. This is a very emotional chapter where she uh, goes to Shalva with a lot of affection, a very romantic feeling. She goes to him and says, "Oh my, if you ever translate into English, it would be something like, my darling, I've come to you. Please, now we can be together." Like in a very romantic mood, she goes. But Shalva is not in that mood at all, and he completely rejects her. So you can sort of see how she would have felt at that time. And she starts pleading. She's shocked actually that he is not willing to welcome her because she had convinced Bhishma. I mean, it didn't take much to convince Bhishma, but she had told Bhishma, she had gone out of her way. She had told him that, look, I have to go and so on, which actually requires, some discomfort. It's not an easy thing to say that. And after doing all this, being brought here, this guy suddenly is saying, no, is he serious? Are you serious in saying you don't want me? That kind of feeling. And then she repeatedly pleads to him, and she says that, look, I've given up everything for you. I told them, I told this, I can't go anywhere now. Where will I go if you say no? But he's unmoved by that. He's completely unmoved, and his only consideration is his own, dignity. He feels that if he accepts her, it's below his dignity. He says that, look, I wanted to get you, so I chased Bhishma, and Bhishma defeated me. And now, logically, you don't belong to him. He has taken you away. And once he has taken you away, regardless of what he did to you or he did not do to you, because she's telling him that, I did not get into any friendship with anybody. I remained pure. I'm only yours. In my mind, I'm only yours. But all that is not enough to convince Shalva. And she then is in a very pitiful condition. She's very miserable. She's crying. And in a very miserable condition, she leaves from Shalva's palace and she doesn't know where to go. So as she is returning back, she's analyzing, her mind is going wild and she's thinking, what happened? I mean, why this happened to me and who is responsible for this? Okay, now onwards, the story takes a particular direction where, we can put ourselves in a similar situation when something unforeseen happened to us, something painful, undesirable happened to us. One is that we try to figure out how to come out of it. And the other is, what many of us do is we try to find out whom to blame now. Who is the one who is responsible for my misery? Okay. Even for a small thing like, let's say we are driving on the road and somebody touches us, then we want to immediately abuse that person who touched us. And, we want someone to blame immediately. It's a mentality that is inherent, to find the person to blame. Okay. So she begins to analyze who is responsible for my condition. So she begins with herself, I think I have done something wrong in the past. I must be responsible. And maybe I could have told my father before the Swayamvara itself. I could have just told him that I am in love with Shalva, and this then would not have happened. But I don't know what he would have said. So she's analyzing that. Then her mind goes to her father. Father should have asked me. Why did he arrange a Swayamvara for me without asking me? He should have asked me, should I have a Swayamvara or not? I would have told him at that time. So she tries to then blame her father in her mind. All this is going on in her mind. Okay, she's not talking to anyone. And this is described in the Mahabharata. Vyashigasdev describes this in multiple shlokas. And of course, Bhishma is now describing this to Duryodhana. So then she blames Shalva. She says that, okay, all that happened, but then after all this, Shalva, because he loved me so much, all this time we have been having a relationship and he has shown me, expressed his love to me, but now, how can he let me go like this? I put my whole life in front of him. I've given myself everything to him and I'm willing to serve him all his life. but how can he let me go? How can he dump me like this? Right? So she then starts blaming Shalva in the mind. Then she realizes that no, she actually loves Shalva even now. Even after this, her love for Shalva is not gone. So it's not he who is to blame. He also had a reason why he refusing her, because Bhishma has defeated him. So then she finally concludes that it's Bhishma who is the culprit. What business did he have to come and take me away from there? He is the culprit. Okay. So Bhishma then, at that point onwards, Bhishma becomes the object of her hate. Now, then as she is going, she ends up in the ashram of a set of tapasvis. You see, all over India, and especially in those days, even today, we have different places. There are people who just do tapasya. Their only life, or their whole life, is devoted to developing their consciousness towards God and becoming more and more realized about God. So there's one ashram there, and there are tapasvis sitting there and practicing tapasya, living a very austere life. And they immediately give her refuge. She's a woman in distress. And tapasvis are very kind people. Okay, when somebody comes for help, even animals, they see an animal in trouble, they will help that animal. So they give her refuge, they give her a place to stay, they give her food and everything. And in the course of that, they become aware. She explains her dilemma to them. She tells them, this is what happened to me. I don't know what to do now. And there's one Muni called Shaikhavatya Muni, who is also present among them. He's a prominent one among them. And she asks him, please teach me tapasya. I want to develop my own ability, become strong. She's in a confused condition. She doesn't know what to do next. So she sees tapasvi. She says, please teach me also tapasya. I can also become strong like you. And he gives her a lot of wisdom. He pacifies her. Those words are very pleasing to hear. He tells her to calm down. And he gives her his words of wisdom. So this is the 175th chapter. As it goes forward, the tapasvis then deliberate upon her situation. They discuss with each other. And then they advise her that, look, you can consider going back to Bhishma and telling him what happened. The Shalva refused you, and he will help you. And maybe you can stay with him, right? Or you can go back to your father. That may be even better. Because after all, a father always loves his daughter, even if the others outside may dump her, dump the girl. But a father will never do that. You can always go back to your father in the worst situation, even if you have committed a mistake. In this case, you didn't commit any mistake. You just, happened to be in this situation because somebody else took you away and somebody else refused you. So you can go back to your father and he will take care of you. Now here we must see what she did and we must reflect on whether she did the right thing or not. Uh, she refuses to go to her father, and her only argument there is that it is below my dignity to go back to my father. I am a princess and I have been taken away by a king rightfully, because that's a process. We discussed this earlier. Bhishma is taking away those three princes. It is not a case of kidnapping as we know it in today's world. Although the word apaharan is used in the Mahabharata, it is a process in the Kshatriya dharma. A part of the process of marriage, one way of doing it is through the Swayamvara ceremony. And another way of doing it is like this, where the a king or a prince who is very confident comes there and tells the princess to come with me, tells, please come with me, I will take care of you. They go with him, and he challenges the other kings and says that if you are willing to fight me, and you can then take her away. But if I win, then I will take her away. So so that's a process Bhishma takes, and he single-handedly, he doesn't go with any army, anything. Single-handedly, he takes them all on. He defeats them. So Bhishma, by the Kshatriya dharma point of view, has not done anything wrong. Okay, so she says, I can't go back to Bhishma. She has already developed a hatred towards him, and he's the culprit in her mind. And even to her own father, she says, I can't go back to him because my self-respect will go away if I do that. So she has a strong sense, and that it becomes evident there that her sense of self-esteem, or it's beyond what normally people would have. It's to the extent that it's like arrogance. It says, no, who is my father also? I am independent. I'm my own identity. That kind of a ego. Where even in this situation, she refuses to go to her father. And then at that point of time, her grandfather, her biological grandfather, father of her mother, appears there. Potravahana, his name. He's a king. He's a Raja Rishi. Among the kings, he's become a Raja Rishi. He feels a lot of compassion upon her. And he advises her, okay, if that is the situation, then one way you can do is to approach Parashurama. Parashurama is the person who has, tamed the Kshatriyas. So he will tame Bhishma also, and Bhishma is his disciple. Bhishma is a disciple of Parashurama. Bhishma learnt Dhanurveda from Parashurama. So you go to him, and if he tells Bhishma to resolve your problem, Bhishma will do it. Bhishma will take care of you. So she doesn't want Bhishma to take care of her. She wants Bhishma to be killed. She has developed that bhav that Bhishma should be killed. Now, he deserves to be killed. He doesn't deserve to live because he has put me in this situation. So she tells this to Hotravahana, and Hotravahana advises her to go to Parashurama. At that point of time, a disciple of Parashurama also appears there, Akritavrana, and Amba speaks to him. And Hotravahana and Akritavrana and all these people go to Parashurama along with Amba. He introduces her as his granddaughter, and they have a conversation. Amba then requests Parashurama to kill Bhishma. Then Parashurama agrees. He says that, okay, I will see, I will tell Bhishma to accept you, take you back. And if he doesn't agree, then I will kill him. I will fight with him and kill him. So this, they go to Hastinapura and then they speak to Bhishma, and Parashurama instructs Bhishma outside Hastinapura to accept Amba, but Bhishma there politely declines. Bhishma says that I cannot get married. I've taken a vow. I can't marry her. And in the case of Vichitravirya, for whom he had brought Amba earlier, he says that she will not marry her because she had already revealed to us, the whole family, that she has an affair with somebody else. So in her mind, there is someone else. It's not appropriate for her to marry Vichitravirya also. So he politely declines, and Parashurama becomes angry, and multiple times he instructs Bhishma. This is all happening outside the town of Hastinapur. And Bhishma very politely keeps declining, and Parashurama becomes more and more angry. And eventually, Bhishma says to him that you're my guru, and I expect that you will understand because I've taken a vow, and this is this thing. But since you don't understand, I think it looks like the only way out of this is that you fight with me and you kill me if you want to, or you defeat me, whatever. But we will have a yuddha. So it goes into that mode, and eventually they decide to fight each other in Kurukshetra. So they go to Kurukshetra to fight. You see, in those days, Dharma Yuddha is not where you harm civilians. Okay, so they can go back to Hastinapur and kill each other, and in the process kill the population also. This is how Yuddha happens today, right? There's a Yuddha, then the cities are bombed. Whereas normal civilians who have nothing to do with the military, they are killed first. But that is not how our Sanskriti is. If two people want to fight, then there's a separate place for them. It's like a sports match. Okay? If you want to play a professional game, then you go to a stadium and play. It doesn't disturb others, and those who want to watch will come. So these yuddhas also, a lot of people would come and watch, and they would be standing and watching from a distance, right? So when they go to Kurukshetra, Bhishma's mother Ganga appears there, and she says, please don't have this war. It's not going to have anything beneficial. She tries to convince both of them, but both of them are already in the mindset of having a yuddha. So they politely decline her. And the next 7 chapters, 179 to 185, is an elaborate description of the yuddha between Parashurama and Bhishma. This takes up a huge portion, 202 shlokas I counted. And this is a very intense battle in which they both hurt each other. Both of them are bleeding, they fall unconscious in between, somebody revives them, and they continue to fight. And eventually, at one point of time, the Ashtavasus, of which Bhishma is an expansion. Bhishma is one of the Vasus, right? So Bhishma is an expansion of the Vasu known as Div. So the Ashtavasus appear because they are related to him. So they bless him because he has prayed to them. He prays one of the nights when he reaches an extreme situation, when he's really, exhausted, he's about to give up. So he says, please help me, please guide me. And there is this, that's after the Brahmastra is released. The Brahmastra also is released by both of them. The Brahmastras clash. There's terror everywhere. So the universe is now put into a very perilous situation because of that. And the Ashtavasus bless Bhishma with the Prasvapa Astra. Prasvapa Astra is a particular Astra. This is the difference between the two words, Shastra and Astra. Shastra means a weapon, refers to a physical weapon. Astra is a weapon that is not physical. It is something that is through mantras, through the mind. The power of one's mind, one releases a weapon on the other person. The Brahmastra is like that. It's not a physical weapon. It's released through mantras chanted in the mind. So it requires somebody with that level of mental ability to do that. right? So similarly, this astra called Praswapa astra, it's a very powerful weapon which can put your enemy to sleep if that weapon is released on that enemy. So that is given to Bhishma, and when Bhishma decides to release that, the forefathers they come and they request Bhishma, forefather of Parashurama, comes Jamatagni, and a lot of things happen between them. It's very complex. Eventually, they decide to stop fighting. Parashurama first agrees that okay, I'll stop fighting because so many people are requesting now that the war should be put to an end. Just like now, we have this Ukraine Russia war going on, and then we have another one going on between Israel and these people, these Hamas people. And in between, there are people once in a while who request them, stop, enough, don't kill the civilians, but they won't stop, they'll keep continuing. So here, now it has reached a point where the universe is disturbed, and great sages, Mother Ganga, the Vasus, Narada Muni, he comes and he says, stop, enough. And eventually, Parashurama decides to quit first. He says, okay, I will stop. And the moment he stops, Bhishma also stops, and he goes to his guru Parashurama and touches his feet and seeks his blessings. And they reconcile, they embrace each other. And Parashurama then declares that Bhishma is the greatest Kshatriya that I know. And he has really won over me. He has conquered my heart. I've seen him fighting. He'll never give up, and he can never be defeated. Bhishma can never be defeated. He makes that statement. And the point is that if we come back to the original story from where we left off, Amba's problem is not resolved. Bhishma is still alive. Right? So Amba then decides to perform excruciating tapasya. She says that even Parashurama could not kill him, then I will kill him. She develops that ahankar, that what do you call that, hut, that feeling that I should figure out now on my own. Nobody can help me. Nobody will help me. I have to figure out on my own. And she goes into that mood that I will do the necessary tapasya and develop the Shakti by which I can kill Bhishma. And she starts doing that. And somewhere halfway through that, Mother Ganga appears. And she cautions her. She says that please don't do this. Of course, it's also her son who is being targeted. But even more than that, she feels compassion upon this girl. And she says, don't do this. Because if you do this, continue this tapasya, you will suffer more. You will suffer a lot more. And she predicts what will happen to her. And Amba does not listen. Amba does not take Ganga's advice. And she continues. She's mad. She's mad with anger. And in that anger, her body turns into a river. Half her body, it says, becomes a river by the same name called Amba in that particular land where she's doing the tapasya. But it's not a perennial river. It's not a river which, so there are two types of rivers, broadly speaking, perennial rivers and non-perennial rivers, right? So perennial rivers are rivers like Ganga, Yamuna, and so on, and so many other rivers in India also, which are a source of life for living beings inside them, and for so many human beings also who live around them, animals also, trees, plants, vegetation. They all depend on that river, right? Crops, agriculture. So perennial rivers are, very desirable and very, very, very much praised. They're worshipped in India. We worship them also. But non-perennial rivers don't have that status because they are rivers which are filled up only because of the monsoon water. When there is rain, there's some water which flows in them, and disturbing, animals sometimes live in them. And in this case, in that Amba, that river Amba, dangerous crocodile, just like Ganga had warned her that you will become that, she becomes that, and the other half remains that of the girl Amba. But she's now in extreme distress. She's angry, she's mad, she's distressed. And seeing that, various tapasvis also come and advise her that stop this tapasya, it's not good for you, please give it up. But she refuses. She has to kill Vishnu. And finally, Shiva manifests there. And Shiva manifests and says, what do you want? Shiva is also called Ashutosh, right? So he's a very kind person. So he wants her to end this somehow. And he blesses her that you will take a birth again. In this birth, you cannot do it, but you will take a birth again, in which you will become, you will play an instrument, you will become an instrument in Bhishma's death. So hearing that, Amba is now found a opening, in the thing. She's found a door. So she walks through that door and she goes and kills herself. She commits suicide. She lights a fire and she jumps into that fire and burns her body because she wants to immediately be born again so that she can kill Bhishma. You see how strong that resolve is. So then what happens? In the parallelly, there's an elsewhere, in another place, there's a king by name Drupada, who's the father of Draupadi, and this happens before Draupadi is born. And Drupada is also performing a tapasya, but not this kind of tapasya, because he just wants a son. he and his wife, they don't have a child. And so when kings don't have a child for a long time, we saw in the case of Dasharatha also in Ramayana, they want to have a son who will continue their dynasty. So one of the ways they do that is to do a tapasya on some deity and pray to the deity to please bless them with a son. So Drupada is doing that with Shiva. He's praying to Shiva and Shiva appears and blesses him. But when he blesses him, he says that the son born to you will actually be a girl initially, will be a girl for some time and then eventually become a man, grow into a man. Okay, you'll get that kind of a child. Okay, so I won't go into all the details of why it happens that way. But now this girl is born. Okay, this is Amba. Amba is born to Drupada. And when she is born, she is named Shikandini. But the parents, because they actually wanted a son, and they also have the promise from Shiva that it will eventually become a boy, it will become a man. So they don't see any point in revealing her gender. Because if we reveal her gender now, then people will know it's a girl, and then they will say, Raja doesn't have a son, so he doesn't have a successor, and it will cause confusion, right? So why create confusion for the public and why don't you have two things, two stories? So have this one story and tell the public that it's a son. So right from the time it's a baby, they say that this is a son. So they name her Shikandini, but she is told to the public as Shikandi. This is Shikandi. So everybody knows that girl as Shikandi, a boy. So that girl is brought up like a boy, treated like a boy, made to dress like a boy, and even sent to Dronacharya to learn along with the Pandavas. So when Bhishma is narrating this to Duryodhana, he tells Duryodhana, see, this person Shukandi who actually was learning with you, your classmate, you thought it was a boy, no? It's actually a girl. Okay, he points that out. Yeah. So, and so she goes to Dronacharya dressed up like a boy and learns like a student in Dronacharya's academy. So eventually what happens, it comes out. You can't hide a lie like this for a very long time. So Drupada marries off Shikhandi because at certain age, that boy in public vision has reached an age when marriage has to happen. So he looks for a bride, a suitable bride, and there's a king. He follows the arranged marriage process. And there's a king who's got an eligible daughter. And that king is named Hiranyavarma. So that king appears with his daughter and they talk to each other and they both happy. And Hiranyavarma is very happy with Drupada's son and everything and married. And very soon, obviously, so very soon, the daughter of Hiranyavarma discovers that her husband, within quotes, is actually a female. So, and she goes to her father and she's very, very embarrassed. She doesn't know what to say, but she has to say it. So she goes to her father and tells him that, Papa, this person whom I have married is not a man at all. It's a woman I have married, and we have been cheated. So Hiranyavarma is shocked to hear that. So he's shocked and he's also very angry. So he sends messengers to Drupada, and the messenger tells Drupada that, look, you've done something very abominable. You've cheated me. So I'm going to come and destroy you. I'm going to remove you from your throne and I'm going to throw all your ministers out. I don't know why this happened. My daughter is now, made to marry a false husband, and she's been put into tremendous embarrassment. It's socially also very embarrassing. What will he say now to others? So Drupada, if you can analyze why he thought of this idea at all to, until she actually, because Shiva has promised him that she will become a man one day, but even before that happened, he acted hastily. And it's a little bit confusing to him whether he should wait till then, or he can marry her off and then she will become, after marriage, she will automatically turn into a man. So he makes a wrong decision and this decision now backfires. So he's now consulting his wife in chapter 190. Okay, we just have two more chapters left. So in chapter 190, he's consulting his wife in great detail about what should we do. And they are now sitting and breaking their head on, how do we come out of this horrible situation? So seeing that Shikandini, the girl who's actually a girl, she now cannot, tolerate the misery. She's seeing her parents in misery and she realizes that it's because of her plight, that they are in that kind of miserable situation. So she says, I'll go to the forest and I'll kill myself. I can't see this. I can't see this thing. So sometimes we see that in today's world also. Children see their parents being miserable and they see that it's because of them. They sometimes decide to end their life. They don't receive proper counseling or whatever. Very unfortunately, they end their life. So she takes that path. She goes to the forest to end her life. But there's a twist now. When she goes to the forest, she ends up in a place where she wants to commit suicide, but that place is a place where there is a yaksha named Karna who is living there. And as she is, performing some tapasya there, she performs something to, as she goes towards that situation, there's this yaksha who's living there, and he sees her and he gets attracted to her. He becomes compassionate to her. Attracted means in the sense of compassion. So she tells him what happened in her life, her plight, in her life as Shikandini. And she prays to him when he says that I will do what you want. You tell me, I can resolve your problem. I'm a yaksha, I've got some powers and so on. She prays to him and she says, okay, if you can, then please convert me into a man. Because my parents actually always brought me up like a boy and they want to see me as a man. If you can resolve it, then make me a man. If you make me a man, that problem will be resolved. And we don't have to, we can go back to that king, Hiranyavarma, who is my father-in-law, and tell him that actually, see, I'm a man only. Why do you think I'm a girl? We can resolve it this way. So Tunakarna immediately says, we'll do that, but the only way I can do that is by exchanging my gender with you. I'm not a doctor who can just change your gender. Today we hear about people doing that. I don't know how it happens, but here this happens only by exchange of gender. He says, Tunakarna says, I'm a man, I'm a male gender, and you are female gender, but the way I can do it is this. Now you have a problem. For solving this problem, because the problem right now is to send that king back. The king has come to attack your father. Your father-in-law has come to attack your father, and he's thinking that you are a girl. Actually, you are a girl, and he has got that information. So now the problem will be resolved if I make you into a man and you go and present yourself as a man to him. And so we will exchange gender for that much time. And then after that, the king goes back. You can continue living with your wife. You come back and give me back my gender and again become a female. A short-term exchange. It's a short-term solution. Okay, they work it out like that. So she's very happy and she agrees to that. And immediately the gender swapping happens. So with the gender swap, she goes back to Drupada and reveals to him what happened. She had gone to end her life. Now suddenly she is back and she says, Papa, this happened. I'm really a man now. All this time you are pretending, but now you don't have to pretend. I'm really a man, and this is how the Yaksha has told me we can solve this problem. So in the meantime, uh, you know, so Drupada is happy, even though it's a short-term solution. He knows that now at least this king will go back, and we have more days to resolve. In the long run, we'll see what to do, but at least for now, this guy can be sent back. So he's also very happy. And they present her to Hiranyavarma. So that's very comical, actually, this particular chapter where Hiranyavarma comes with all anger to fight with Drupada. And he sends the messenger. And Drupada tells the messenger, look, I don't know why you think this is a girl. Who's given you this false information? Who told you all this, that she's actually a girl? Actually a man only. Why will I marry a girl to your girl? I married my boy to your girl. So he's now very, very confident because he's now got a man with him. So when he says all this, the messengers, they go back. And then Hiranyavarma is suspicious. He says that maybe this guy is lying. So he sends his a bunch of women. He's got some courtiers who are in his assembly, some very intelligent women in his assembly also. So he sends them. He says that you can figure out whether this guy is lying or not. Women are more sometimes, women have a very subtle way of figuring out somebody is lying, and they can also figure out this is really a man or a woman. Talk to somebody. So they go and they interact with both Drupada and with this Shikandini turned Shikandi. And when they interact, they also become convinced. They can make out that actually Shikandi is a man. There's nobody is lying. Everybody is honest. And they go back to Hiranyavarma and tell him that, look, what your daughter told you is false. Your daughter has lied to you. It's actually a man only. There's no doubt. Drupada is honest. Okay. So the comical ending here, Hiranyavarma scolds his daughter. He scolds one shloka where he's scolding his daughter that, you have any brain, you have lied to me. Why did you lie to me? But he's also happy that now it's resolved. He tells his daughter, now please live with your husband peacefully and don't come back with such lies anymore. Okay. So everything is resolved. Now, in the meantime, the audience, the reader is thinking, and as you read this, you'll be thinking, now what will happen next? Because This is going to be short term and she has to go back now and become a female again. But in the meantime, what happens to her good fortune is that this Yaksha Stunakarna, just after this incident, Kubera, who is the master of the Yakshas, he's the king of the Yakshas, Kubera. So he happens to visit this place. And Stunakarna, who has now become a female, he doesn't come out and receive him. The other Yakshas who are living with Stunakarna, they go there. But Stunakarna is the most prominent Yaksha there. So Kubera is wondering, why didn't he come? That he should come. Normally he comes to receive me, but he has not come out. He's not come. So he is inside. So he tells the Yakshas, go call him. Okay, so they are trying to hide him because he has become a female now and they want to hide him at least until the gender swapping again happens and he becomes a male. But Kubera is now asking, so they can't say no, he's the Raja, the Prime Minister, the President of India has come and you can't hide him. So they bring him out. When they bring him out, he is now a female. So Kubera is wondering what's going on here. Who's this? I told you to bring Stunakarna, but you have brought some woman here. Who's this? So then they tell the whole story. He reveals the whole story. He says, I'm actually the Stunakarna, but this is what happened, and that's why I'm a female right now. And Kubera becomes very angry. He says that, what business do you have to do these things? This is not your job. You're not supposed to be doing activities like swapping gender and all that. If you want to help somebody, help them in other ways, but not this kind of thing. I've given you a job. You're supposed to be a male only. Who told you to become a female? This and that. He blasts him. And then he says that, I'll curse you that you will always remain a female. Okay, that's supposed to be a curse. You'll always remain a female. You will not become a male again. Okay. Now, somebody may take that as a blessing also because they say, that's good for me. But in his case, he perceives it as a curse. And he later, he apologizes to Kubera. And the other Yakshas also, they're horrified with that prospect of their king having become a female permanently. And they pray to him. And he blesses them. He says that, okay, at least till Shikandi is alive, you have given your masculinity to Shikandini, and she became Shikandi. But till she is alive, you will remain a female. But the moment she dies or he dies, you will again become a male. Her masculinity will come back to you. He says this. And so with this, Bhishma says, okay, now you know who Shikandi actually is. And he concludes, and these words of his I've brought here to shows Bhishma's character also. Bhishma's concluding words to Duryodhana on why he will not fight with Shikandi in the upcoming war. Please pay attention to this. He says, Vratam etan mama sada prithivyam api vishrutam striyam stri purvake chaiva stri namni stri sarupini na muncheyam banam iti kauravanandana na hanyam ahametena karanena shikandinam. He says, this vrata of mine, this vow of mine, okay, which we did not know before, he has made this vow and everybody knows about it. He says now to Duryodhana that everyone knows this vow of mine, and it's Vishruta, means it is well known. This vow of mine is well known in this universe. Prithivya means on this earth, it's well known on this earth. That's Striyam, Stri Purvake Chaiva, on a Stri, on a woman, or on Stri Purvake, means on somebody who has been a woman before, somebody who is now a woman, or somebody who has been a woman. Second. Third is Stri Namni, on someone who has the name of a woman. Not a woman, not someone who has been a woman, but somebody who has the name of a woman. And fourth, Stri Sarupini, means one who is dressed like a woman, who has the appearance, who has made themselves up with some disguise, let's say, disguised as a woman. On all these four types of characters. Okay, one is a real woman. Second is one who was a woman before, has become a man now, by whatever process. Third is one who has the name of a woman. And the fourth, who he is actually having a disguise of a woman, appears like a woman. And all these four types of people, na muncheyam banam, I will not release my arrow on any of these four types of people. And this is a vow I have taken. Okay, these are famous words in the Mahabharata. It also shows how the attitude towards a woman should be. A woman should never be attacked by a man or by anybody. A woman should always be respected. Okay, even if that woman is attacking you, like in the case of this Yuddha, Shikandi will be used by the Pandavas as a front face for Arjuna to attack Bhishma. And in that process, Bhishma will become helpless. Okay? But he knows this will happen. Even knowing that this will happen, even in self-protection, he will not attack a woman. That is Bhishma's greatness, and that is the greatness of Sanatana Dharma. Sanatana Dharma does not teach us to disrespect women. That's a misconception. Okay, I've had arguments with people, some of my own colleagues also sometimes. They take some arbitrary thing as a Draupadi, because Draupadi was insulted and they all sat quietly. That means Sanatana Dharma teaches us to disrespect women. It's a completely wrong conclusion. It does not do that. Now, Draupadi's case can be analyzed. If you go through the shlokas there and the moods and mentalities of different people there, why Draupadi had to go through that, that can be analyzed and understood through the lens of Dharma. So Dharma does not teach us to disrespect. Dharma tells us to protect our women and uphold women. Women are given the greatest respect in Sanatana Dharma. Okay, so this is a demonstration of Bhishma's character. He allows this, and throughout this incident, another thing that stands out in the character of Bhishma is how, even though, you see, he is narrating this to Duryodhana, which means all the time that this was happening, when Amba was going through this process of the time that she left him and went to Shalva, from that time till this time, that she is now become the male Shikhandi and she is now getting ready to fight the war as a he. All the time he knew what was happening. It is not that he was not knowing about it and somebody at the last minute came and told him. He knew everything. How did he know? It's explained there itself in these 20 chapters that he engaged with spies, Guptachara. All the time he was observing her. He was knowing what was happening to her. Right? And probably he would have also given her protection if she had gone back to him. If she had not taken that mentality of wanting to kill him right from the beginning, and she had just gone back to him and said that Shalva refused me. So what should I do? Tell me. He would have probably said that you just stay with us. You cannot marry Vichitravirya or you cannot marry me also, but you just stay with us and I'll find a suitor for you in future. I'll protect you. Given his mentality, the way it's described in the Mahabharata, it's most likely he would have said something like that. But even though he knew all this, there is not one instance where Bhishma becomes angry with her. Bhishma narrates this to Duryodhana without any anger, without any fear. He doesn't say that, now I'm very concerned about what will happen to me. He does not try to kill her. He does not try any time in this whole process to remove her from the face of this earth. Doesn't try anything like that. He just watches and witnesses the whole thing. And that is the mentality of somebody who understands Dharma, who knows that this is actually the hand of God. There's a higher destiny at play here. And it's outside my control to change anything here. I will accept it as it comes. I will see what happens. If destiny wants that I should be killed by her, I will then accept it. When it happens, it will happen. Right? So he takes that stance, and you see that in his character. We can go into a lot of detail. But now, looking at the way that Amba went through, I would like to point out something that, you see, Dharma is very complex to understand. And there is a shloka in the Manusmriti, and also this is actually in the Manusmriti and the Mahabharata also. In two places in the Mahabharata this appears. Tarko apratishtaha shrutayo vibinnaha naiko muniryasya matam na pramanam. Naiko muniryasya matam na pramanam. Dharmasya tattvam nihitam guhayam. Mahajano yena gatasya pantaha. Essentially what it says is that dharma is very complex and it cannot be resolved with logic. Tarkaha apratishtaha. Logic is inconclusive because there are many different opinions in the Shastra about dharma. And Naiko Munihi Yasya Matam Na Pramanam. Person will not be considered a philosopher, even today, if he doesn't have a different opinion. Okay, right now, for example, if you have to get, complete your PhD, you have to publish a paper or get an R&R in a paper. And what is a paper? A research paper is something where there is an original contribution. You have to say something different from what the earlier people said. If you say the same thing what earlier people said, your paper will not get published. So Naiko Munir Yasya Matam Pramanam. There is no one Muni whose mata is Pramanam. People will not say that his opinion is the only correct opinion. There's so many different opinions. So you do literature review and say so and so is saying this, so and so is saying that. There's so many different views in the literature. That is how it was in our culture also. There are always Munis with different opinions. And therefore, if you try to understand Dharma in isolation on your own by reading the Shastra, you will not be able to. That is why Dharmasya Tattvam Nihitam Guhayam. The essence of Dharma is hidden in a cave. What it means is it's not easy to access. It is confidential, it's secretive. Therefore, Mahajano Yena Gatasya Pantaha. What path the great personalities have taken Observe them and take that path and see where they have reached. Okay, and Bhishma is one such Mahajana. So we talk about tapasya because there are three types of tapasya described in the Gita, in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 17th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, and we see Amba performing enormous amount of tapasya here. You see, in our Samskriti, tapasya is a normal way of life. Everybody performs tapasya in some form or the other. And some people perform that to an extreme. Like in this case, Amba. Earlier we heard the story of Vishwamitra and Vashishta. Vishwamitra with extreme sense of revenge on Vashishta, wanting to teach him a lesson. In this case, Amba having the same mentality of vengeance. Okay, three types of tapas, and what should we adopt? Okay, Satvikam tapas. That's the first category, and I will talk about this a little bit because I think we should learn from this. There's something in it for us, and this will help us. Okay, Deva, Dvija, Guru, Pragya, Pujanam, Shaucham, Arjamam, Brahmacharyam, Ahimsa, cha Shariram Tapa Uchyate. This is called the tapas of the body. Satvikam tapas has got three dimensions to it. The first is the dimension of the body, the bodily dimension of tapas. Second is Vangmayam tapa, tapas of the speech, of our words. Third is Manasa tapa, that is tapas of the mind. Okay, so Satvikam tapas has three dimensions. The first dimension is the Shariram tapa. Shariram tapa is tapa related to the body. Deva, Dvija, Guru, Pragya, Pujanam. Worship of the elders in the form of the Devas, of the Brahmanas, the qualified Brahmanas, Dvijas, of our Guru, our teachers. Pragya means learned people who are not in these three categories, learned people in general. Worshipping them is the first form of tapas. Shaucham Arjavam, keeping ourselves clean, Shaucham, mentally clean, bodily clean. Simplicity, Arjavam, remaining simple, avoiding the unnecessary things, doing what is necessary, avoiding that which is unnecessary, giving it away to somebody else, or just not engaging in it. Arjavam, Brahmacharyam, engaging in sexual activity only to the extent required for begetting a child. Nothing more than that. That is called Brahmacharya, or completely abstaining from any form of sexual activity. Ahimsa, not troubling others, not killing anybody, not troubling anybody also. This is called Shariram Tapasya. Anudvegakaram Vakyam, Satyam Priyahitam Chayat, Priyahitam Chayat, Swadhyayabhyasanam Chaiva, Vangmayam Tapa Uchyate. Tapasya of the speech is Anudvegakaram Vakyam, speaking words or speaking in a manner that doesn't disturb others. Speaking in a manner, even when you have to say something difficult to somebody, you have to say something unpleasant to somebody, say it in a way that doesn't disturb that person, doesn't hurt that person, doesn't offend that person. Say it in the best possible way that doesn't offend the person. And even then, if that person gets offended, then it's outside your control. Okay, Satyam, speaking the truth. Priyahitam, that which is spoken with affection and which is spoken, spoken in a manner, which is spoken to benefit that person. Hitam, which will benefit that person. Presenting something to somebody which will be beneficial to that person, speaking words which are of benefit to that person. Swadhyaya Abhyasanam. Swadhyaya Abhyasanam means Swadhyaya is an important part of our culture, means self-study, studying on our own. And in that Abhyasanam means repetition or memorization. Okay? Our learning system gave a lot of importance to memorizing things, memorizing facts, memorizing definitions. Because through memorization, certain types of abilities in the brain develop. Okay, even today it's discussed in neuroscience. So, Swadhyaya Abhyasanam Chaiva Vangmayam Tapa Uchyate. This is tapasya of the speech. Then Manav Prasadaha Saumyatvam Maunam Atma Vinigraha Bhava Samshuddhirityetata Tapo Manasam Uchyate. Tapasya of the mind is to engage the mind in thoughts which are undisturbing, not in violent thoughts, thoughts of revenge, thoughts of hatred, thoughts of remembering things which are violent, like murders, reading about. So when do thoughts of violence come to us? Suppose you watch a movie which is violent, a movie which is all about war, people killing each other. Then you go back, then those thoughts are in your mind, right? So don't go to such movies. Instead, read things which are pleasing to read. So those thoughts will then prevail in the mind. So making the mind think pleasant thoughts, saumyatvam, sweetness, remaining silent. Okay, that's a big tapasya, keeping quiet, not controlling the urge to speak. Atma vinigraha, withdrawing the mind from the objects of the senses. Because the mind by default contemplates on the sense objects. Even something like good food or wanting to see a good place. So withdraw the mind and Bring it towards the Atma inside the body. That is where real happiness lies. Bhava samshuddhihi. Bhava samshuddhihi, having very good intention for others. Bhav. Our bhav towards other people should be always positive, even to people who have hurt us. Like in the case of Bhishma, we see this. He doesn't have any negative thoughts towards Amba. He knows Amba is now doing all this to kill him one day, but he has no negative thoughts towards it. Whereas Amba's thoughts are the diametric opposite of that. This is called Manasatapa. And so Sri Bhagavan says in the 17th sloka of the 17th chapter, Shraddhaya paraya taptam tapas tat trividham naraihi afalakangshibihi yuktaihi satvikam parichakshate. So if tapasya is done in three dimensions, then it is called satvika. It should be done without expectation of what will I get in return for doing this. Afalakankshi. There is no expectation of return. I do this because this is the way I should do. This is my way of life. And this is the source of happiness. This is what will make us happy, experience that inner happiness. Right? That's what he's pointing out. Okay, now we'll go towards what Amba is doing. But before we do that, let's look at the in-between thing called Rajasa tapas, Rajasam tapas. Satkaramana pujartham tapodambhena chaivayate kriyate tadiha proktam rajasam chalam adruham. Tapasya done in a rajasic mentality. अभी शादी होने वाली है 3 महीने में, अभी जिम में एनरोल किया, 3 महीना जिम में जाके लगा दिया सब. Okay, you go to the gym, you want to build your body, eat अंडा खाया वो खाया वो बॉडी बना दिया. Because on the day of the marriage, you want to look like wearing the sherwani, this, that, you want to look like a big hero on that day. And the day after the gym, the day after the marriage, no gym anymore. सब हो गया, हनीमून चला गया, किया हो गया, थाईलैंड गए, इधर गया, खा लिया, सब पेट सुफर बाहर आ गया फिर. Right? This is called Rajasic tapasya. You see the qualities of this tapasya where hard work is done. He's doing tapasya, right? Going to the gym is tapasya. Putting yourself. Tapasya in general means anything that puts you to some discomfort. So go to the gym and work out, it's discomfort. Okay, now satkara mana pujartham. You want satkar. You want people to say, "Are kya aadmi are? Badhiya yaar." So you want people to praise you. Mana pujartham. People want to say, "Kitna handsome lag raha hai yaar. Gym gaya dekho." So tapo dambhena chaivayate. Dambha, arrogance sometimes. Done very arrogantly. I'll show him. Ko dikhaunga ki main kaun hu. That kind of thought. Okay. Tapo dambhena. Done with dambha. Then kriyate tadiha proktam rajasam chalam adhruvam. See the last 2 words, chalam and adhruvam. Chalam means that which is transient, short term. In management, we talk about short term, long term, right? This is short term, chalam. Chalam means it stays for some time. Uske baad chala jata hai. Chalam. Adhruvam. Adhruvam means that which is done inconsistently. Inconsistently means it's like somebody giving the same gym example. You join a gym, may not be thinking about your marriage or anything, but you join the gym like New Year resolution. Join the gym, go for a few days, then you stop. And then after a few days, you regret, you go back again. Adhruva, unstable, up and down. Chalam adhruva. So this is called Rajasic tapasya. And now, Amba, Tamasa tapasya. Moodagrahena atmano yat pidaya kriyate tapaha. Parasya utsadanartham va tat tamasam mudahritam. Moodagrahena. Moodagraha means a state of perplexity or confusion. Moodagraha. Your mind, Moodaha means foolishness. Moodaha means a foolish person. Moodatvam is foolishness. Moodagraha, your mind has been snatched away by foolish mentality. Confused. You don't know what is right and wrong. You're not able to resolve right from wrong. The wrong thing looks like the right thing looks like the wrong thing in that state. So in that state, you do atmanaha, moodagrahena atmanaha, yat pidaya kriyate, done with lot of trouble, lot of pain. Much more than going to a gym. Like in the case of Amba, it is much more than what a person goes through when he goes to the gym to prepare for his marriage, right? It's much more. She's standing there. It's described in the Mahabharata how she stood there in the water, in the cold water. She did not eat for months together. She was eating leaves for some months. Then she decided to give up drinking water also. She was controlling her mind. Her anger is the motivator. And so you can see here, parasya utsadanartham va. Parasya utsadanartham means with the intention to trouble others, with the intention to kill others, with the intention to harm others. When tapasya is done like that, I will develop the power. Okay, it's very similar to what terrorists go through. There are terrorist training camps. Right? We hear about terrorist training camps once in a while. And these terrorist training camps, they are put through a huge amount of tapasya, a lot of difficulty. They have to develop those skills by which they can eventually kill themselves. Imagine you're getting trained to blow a bomb on yourself. What a training it is, isn't it? So how their mentality has to be to train somebody that, look, I'm going to train you. After you become an expert in this, you'll be able to comfortably tie a bomb on your chest, go in the middle of a crowd and burst the bomb. You'll get a degree in bursting bomb with your bomb tied to your belt. That kind of tapasya, to develop a mentality by which you will kill yourself and along with so many others. What kind of tapasya is that? It's called tamasa tapasya. Okay. So in the case of Amba, we see that kind of tamasa tapasya happening in a strong sense of vengeance, and that is not advised. Now, if you see what she went through, eventually she went through a huge amount of trouble, and all her life, both as Amba and as Shikandi, she had to live as a boy when she was actually a girl. She did not have the normal life of a girl. Would any girl want to live like that? I don't think she should. Live like a girl, should live like a girl and enjoy her life as a girl. Receive the affection as a girl from her parents, from her friends, whatever. So she lives a life throughout her life, from the point that she leaves Bhishma and goes to Shalva, and then later on she lives as Shikandi in her next birth. She's all the time in trouble, and now she is getting prepared to become the cause of Bhishma's death. So that whole life as Shikandi also is a life of pain. And if you go back and ask what she could have done alternatively, there could have been so many alternatives, like the tapasvis advised her. So many people advised her in the course of her life that, you go back to Bhishma or go back to your father. Maybe going back to her father would have been the best decision for her. And that would have given her a normal life. If she could not marry Shalva, then she would have probably married some other king, some other prestigious king, and had a life of a queen, right? And lived a very sattvic life. But instead, she goes through all this, and it's very unfortunate that her life ended like this. But now there is an interpretation to this also, where my wife Jayashree was telling me that she heard in some lecture by the Madhva scholars that they have found out from elsewhere that Bhishma's, this whole episode is happening because he has received a curse from Vasishta, right? He's actually the Vasu called Dyu, and so he's meant to be born like this. And why did that happen? That curse happened because Dyu's wife, his wife in his life as Dyu, was the one who made him steal that cow. And he stole Vasishta's cow, and then Vasishta curses him. So along with them, Vasishta curses his wife also, that you will be born like this. And so this
Sir, what's the name of the cow? Is it Nandini?
Yeah, Nandini, yes.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
So she's her wife is also cursed to be born as Amba and Shikandi and become the cause of liberating Bhishma. Because ultimately the Vasus pray to Ganga and they pray to Vasishta also that please bring us back. And so 7 of them, other than Dyu, this other 7 of them are blessed to come back immediately, and Ganga puts them in the water and liberates them immediately. They go back to Swargaloka. But one of them, that is Bhishma, has to spend his whole life here. So he has to be liberated. So his wife, in the birth as Dyu, in his life as Dyu, is given that job. And so she, because she has done that offense of stealing a cow through her husband, so she has to suffer as Amba and then as Shikandi. And then she's also the cause of liberating her husband along with herself, and they both go back to Swargaloka. So therefore, from that perspective, the story has a happy ending. So this, of course, I have not read this anywhere. This is what Jayashree was telling me, so I'm just narrating it to you.
Sir, this is mentioned in Mahabharat by C. Raja Gopalachari.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, that's the name of the books. Mahabharat by C. Raja Gopalachari. It's a beautiful book by, I think, Bharatiya. I'm not remembering the name of the publication. It's a beautiful book, sir.
Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan.
Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan. Yeah, correct. Yeah.
So Arunappa, Amba's story, I mean, Dyu's wife's story is mentioned in that book?
I remember Nandini was mentioned. Amba's story, I don't recall exactly, ma'am. Sorry, I'm not able to recall that. But
Okay.
Nandini's story was mentioned. That I remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that. Probably, with some more research, we can find out where this other story comes of Vasishta cursing his wife to be born as Amba. This portion I have not found so far. It's not there in these 20 chapters, but it could be elsewhere, either in the Mahabharata itself or in some Purana, and we might be able to find it. If the Madhva scholars are saying it, then it's quite likely it's in some accepted Shastra. Otherwise, they wouldn't be saying it. Prapti, sorry, I overspoke today because the story was long and.
So when I'm sharing my thoughts, by no means I'm trying to say that vengeance was correct or something else was wrong.
Sure.
But the point that I'm trying to make is, when I was thinking throughout what different could have been done, there a lot of things came to my mind as well. So I'm not taking anybody's side, neither what Amba is doing or what Bhishma is doing. But the point that I'm trying to make is, when the entire thing happened they said there's a Kshatriya dharma in which they can get people, the girls like that. Had in the first place, dharma would have been okay, even if you're getting somebody like that, at least ask them if they want to be getting like that into a marriage, like a parama or whatever. In that place only the problem would have been solved first, but that did not happen. He took all the three together. And then second, there was a concept that if somebody wins over in the fighting, then again it feels like there's no place where the choice of these girls are taken into consideration. Had somebody else won while Bhishma was fighting with them, had Bhishma was not that powerful and somebody else won, those girls will go to them without their choice. And when Bhishma got to them, and when I appreciate that she was allowed to go back to Shalva, but then the Shalva is again saying that part of dharma that you were already won back. So it feels like it is an object which was won back with somebody, and then
Objectification of women, yes.
yeah, and then she does take one option to go back to Bhishma to resolve it. Not that she didn't go back to him, but then Vichitravirya is not marrying her because she has a love interest, and Bhishma will not marry her because he has taken a vow. It is then when the vengeance developed. It is not that she has not taken any steps to resolve. She did try to take that step. She did went back to Bhishma to say that.
No, she doesn't go to Bhishma. That's a wrong information. I forgot to say that, but in the popular folklore that we hear, she doesn't go to Bhishma at all.
Okay.
She decides there itself when she's returning from Shalva and going to the tapasvis. Even before she reaches the tapasvis who advise her to consider these possibilities, she makes up her mind that Bhishma is the culprit. And she doesn't go back to Bhishma. That's an important point to make here. Because if she had gone to Bhishma, she could have found a solution. That's what I believe. Given Bhishma's thinking.
That could have been a solution, but somebody's wedding day, they are already planning that they will be marrying their love interest on the day, and they are just taken back, and then there is a concept that who will win back. Bhishma challenging openly, come and fight with me. And if Bhishma is not that powerful, say apart from Salva, somebody else won, then these girls will go to them without there any. So there's no choice that they are making, and I think which is where this vengeance is born. And again, it is not justified. I'm not saying that even that vengeance is justified, but I think it is born from there. Had the dharma been to, at least even if you're taking them away, at least know if they want to be taken away.
Yeah.
Then things would have been.
Had it been that way, then probably this would not have happened. But then the point is this, dharma that was existing at that point of how dharma was described by our sages and how they developed it, considering various possibilities. A woman was seen as an object that should be protected by the man, should be taken care of, just like we see a child today, right? Just like the way it is seen with affection, not as an object. Today, of course, the way we interpret, what happens is when we interpret what happened that time through the lens of today's values, the way social values and the society is structured today, it definitely looks like objectification of a woman, no doubt about it. But it wasn't objectification of a woman from their lens, from their perspective. From their perspective, it was something like
some choice must have been taken. It is not.
So it is something like I'm giving a crude analogy only here. I'm not saying women are children, but at that point of time, in that framework of dharma, woman is someone who is supposed to be protected by the man. Man's responsibility with affection.
You have to protect the responsibility. You can't protect in your way.
So responsibility. So Bhishma. So there is responsibility. Bhishma is doing it with full responsibility. When Bhishma takes them, he is not taking them in a manner that mistreats them. There's no mistreating.
He's not mistreating, but he's disrespecting their choice, right?
No, he's not disrespecting their choice too. Because first of all, if you see what happened in the story, both Ambika and Ambalika, the other two sisters, are very happy.
They are happy.
They're very happy with what he has done.
Because they not have any love interest, but
no. By today's lens, even they will be unhappy.
That is correct.
If you want to argue through today's lens, even Ambika and Ambalika should not have been taken by him, correct? But they are in consent with that. They are happy with the way it happened.
Correct.
You should
I
try
cannot
to.
go back to that
So
lens
you
to-
should, if you have to understand the Shastra, then you should take the lens through which that Shastra was developed. If you ask me whether this should be done by people today, I will say no.
and
Today, is it justified if somebody goes, if some rich man goes to another rich man's house and takes away his 3 daughters and goes away? Is it correct? Absolutely wrong. Absolutely not. Today's lens should be applied. But if we try to understand dharma, because dharma was developed through a particular lens with those considerations, the consideration of affection, regard, respect, and that is why you see Ambika Ambalika, they are very happy. They are very happy that explicitly mentioned by Vyasji there that they were very happily married to Vichitravirya, and they had a very good life until he finally dies. So we can reason out now that if Ambika was not in love with Shalva, if she did not have an affair, then she would have also been happy by the same logic.
You can't blame her for having an affair. She has a free will to like someone, right?
So whether she should be blamed for that or not, that's a different question altogether. Fine. But the point here, how situations have happened is that Bhishma as a dharmic king, he's applying the principles of dharma and he does something that is very much within the purview of dharma. So him taking away those 3 girls under his protection, he's taking them as not as objects, but as a responsibility. That these 3 girls I will take care and I will marry them off to my brother, who is also a responsible king through the lens of dharma only, in the framework of dharma.
Yes, sir. So, as per the Kshatriya Dharmam, I think that was acceptable then. And you had mentioned that Dharma is complex, like Tarkopatishatha, right?
Yes,
So,
correct.
now, since we had reasoned like the other 2 sisters were happy, then can we reduce Dharma to being something that is accepted in that particular time as right, as the virtue of that time?
Yeah, dharma was accepted. Dharma is something that is meant to be accepted. And in that time, dharma was accepted. That is why, you see, nobody said, you see, nowhere in the whole, this 20 chapters is it described as Bhishma doing anything unethical or something that is wrong. Whereas if you talk about the actions done by Duryodhana, the way that he cheated them and the way he insulted Draupadi, that is spoken of explicitly in the Mahabharata as unethical, as wrong, adharmic. Right? His
Yes,
behavior towards Draupadi is not praised, is not considered as dharmic at all.
So
Absolutely.
Dharma would just mean to live by the social structures of the prevalent times, right?
No, dharma is that, you see, dharma is defined in the Shastra as dharanat dharma ityahuhu dharmena vidritah prajaha yatsyad dharana sanyuktah sa dharma iti nishchayah or sa dharma iti katyate. This is how dharma is defined. Dharma is that which sustains, which bears. So the system of dharma is complex, like we heard today also, tarka apratishta shrutayo vibhinna. Dharma is complex. It's complex because it has multiple dimensions. There is a social dimension, there is biological dimension of dharma, which refers to how we should keep our body, mind, etc. So many aspects of dharma. Right? Dharma is not just about social relationships. In this case, we are talking about social relationships. So dharma it's got very nuanced aspects in it. So people like Bhishma are exemplars of dharma. They carry forward dharma, they practice dharma. Now, if Bhishma had known, you can ask this question. Suppose Bhishma had known before itself that Amba was in love with
But
Shalva.
that he should ask, right, before making that act. He cannot
Dharma,
just
the process, the practice of dharma. You see, the practice of dharma did not involve asking the girl, are you in love with somebody? Can I take
So
you?
actually, one more definition of the Sanatana Dharma was that that it is very complex to understand and can be understood better by following great personalities, right?
Yeah.
So Bhishma fits that picture of a great personality.
Yeah.
So, however, in the end, I remember there was an incident where Lord Krishna himself was angry with Bhishma as he wouldn't stop fighting. He took up the Sudarshan Chakra to end his life. He was almost about to, right?
We'll come to that. Darshan.
Yeah.
So we have 2 or 3 more episodes of Bhishma's life. And so that is a part of one of the episodes which is going to come now.
Yes, sir.
It's the end of Bhishma's life. He's doing all that, what you described now. We will come to that.
Yes, sir. So, was that justifiable? Like, because Amba was, as per her dharma, Amba was supposed to kill Bhishma, right? So, even God, in a sense, went to define his dharma in his own way.
So we will please raise this question in the next session or the next to next session when I'm talking about it.
Yes, sir.
But here I'm trying to explain that what Bhishma did. Now, see, what happens is because our mind is conditioned to the way we are living in society today and today's values. So if somebody does what Bhishma did today, he would be absolutely wrong. It would be not only unethical, it would be both illegal and unethical, both. If somebody
Yes.
goes to some girl's house and just takes her away, even with asking. I mean, she's saying you should have asked her before taking her away. So, but I go to somebody's house, can I take you away? Even that is wrong. So you can't just go to somebody's house and say, can I take you away? Does it make any sense? So today, if we do what Bhishma did at that point of time, it's absolutely wrong. But at that point of time, the way practice was, you see, by the world of practice of that point of time, it was very normal to do that. Even the father of those three girls does not object and say that you did something wrong. Because Bhishma has come and he's in accordance with Dharma. He's known as a person who is an embodiment of Dharma. He's a well-known personality. Okay, just like today we know so many well-known personalities. He's like that. He comes in the assembly and he just tells them, come with me. And they go with him. And nobody considers that to be wrong because he does it in a way that is way it's meant to be done. He announces to the kings, before he takes them away, he stands there and announces to them saying that now you can challenge me. You can fight with me, that if you defeat me, then these girls will go to you. You will take care of them. Okay, so here the girls are not objects. That's how we interpret them because we see them in today's lens, the way people
But
behave today.
while the fight is ensuing, the girls don't know who is going to win, whom they are going to go with. This is a
Yeah, in your mind, suppose you were in the shoes of the girls today, it would be very difficult. But in the girls' minds, it is not difficult because they know that great kings are fighting over them.
But
Sir,
even after
but
taking
even like Bhishma was like not taking the girls for himself. He
Yeah.
was taking it for Vichitravirya.
Yeah.
If he was so sure that he is a responsible king, why didn't he send Vichitravirya for the Swayamvar? Like
Yeah.
and like in,
and Vichitravirya
it
is
can
able
also
to
have
his
it
Why
can
he,
also
why
be
he
like a-
did, why
So
he did?
Vichitravirya was not invited.
No,
The
no,
problem was that Vichitravirya was not invited in that
no, it's
congregation.
not about being invited because the way Mahabharata describes it is that it was an open Swayamvara. Nobody was particularly invited to come there. Okay, I don't know where that thing about being invited comes. See, there are many versions. When I explain this, you must understand. Just like now I clarified that Amba did not go back to Bhishma. She doesn't go back. She makes up her mind that she's going to kill him, independent of going back to him. Okay, so she does not give him a choice of doing anything. Similarly, Vichitravirya being invited, not invited is not an issue at all because nobody was particularly invited according to the original Mahabharata. It was an open invitation to the kings, like it happens in any Swayamvara, that anybody can come. Any qualified king can come, and my daughters will choose whom they want, and they're all introduced there when they come there. Okay. So Vichitravirya not being invited is not the reason that he did not send Vichitravirya. It is just that, I mean, the reason is not given there elaborately
Would
why.
that have been a better practice of Dharma? Would have
Exactly,
sent
yes.
directly and
No,
the girls would have
not necessary.
because otherwise it might happen that great king can go for a Swayamvar and get the girls for his son, for his cousins, for anyone. If
But
you're going
that
by
was
that
not a normal practice, right? That we can go and get girls for
that was also probably a practice because if it is not a practice, see, that's why it is said dharmasya tattvam nihitam guhayam mahajano yena gatasya panta. The Mahabharata accepts Bhishma as an exemplar of dharma. So it demonstrates dharma to us through the actions of Bhishma. It is not saying that today we should practice that dharma because many things which are applicable in Dwapar Yuga are not applicable today. Like Niyoga, for example, in the last session, we talked about Niyoga. Now, if you ask the question, is that okay today? Absolutely not. Niyoga is prohibited in the Kali Yuga. Okay. In the same way, the actions of Bhishma of that time, the way he behaved, is not applicable today. So we should not discuss Bhishma could have done this, could have done it. Instead, we should discuss that yes, this is how dharma was practiced. This is how our Samskriti was, and this is a way in which he executed responsibility. It was his responsibility to marry off his brother, sorry. His brother had to be married off to.
But first he should have tried in a the general way, but it would have failed. He was not getting selected in Swayamvara. Then he has to take the extreme route. He's taken the first route very extreme.
So when you say that, you are assuming that you know dharma better than Bhishma does. Do you realize that, Prapti? You say, I know dharma better than Bhishma does, so I'm telling what Bhishma should have done.
No, I'm not trying to say that. I'm just trying to say
Effectively,
even
you're
people
saying-
who learn it, they can also make mistakes, and this could be one of his
It is
bit
not.
which which led to his death like
But
that.
the Mahabharata does not explain this as a mistake of Bhishma. It just says that, see, sometimes dharma is so complex that even when you do all the correct things, because of situations, social situations are so complex that even when you do the correct things, some unfortunate thing happens at the end of it, right? That is because there's a higher destiny in it. Because there's a higher destiny. In it. You understand, Prapti? I'm trying to help you to come out of that line that you're taking and try to understand it through Bhishma. We don't debate on whether he followed dharma or not. Instead, we learn how dharma used to be, what the principles of dharma used to be, and appreciate it as it is. We should understand here that women are not treated. That's very important. That we would like to conclude, or we tend to conclude that women were objectified. This is not an example of women being objectified. Women are looked at with affection, with respect. A woman, or like a daughter or a daughter-in-law, is meant to be treated like an object of, like a dear, like something very dear to us. And when a king takes away a girl like that from another king, from her father in a swayamvara or in this process. Now, this is described as one of the processes by which marriage happens, the Kshatriya's marriage happens. He's taking her with the responsibility that I will take care of her. Just like her father has brought her up, now I will take her. I will take care of her. I will give her all her needs. I will give her happiness. And in the case of, we see that, in the case of Ambika, Ambalika, we see that happiness coming to them. And Bhishma did not know. Now you can ask this question. Suppose Bhishma knew that she was engaged to Shalva, or she was actually having an affair with Shalva. Would he have still like that? Looking at his action later, we can quite comfortably say that he would not have. He would have probably left her there and taken the other two girls and allowed her to do Swayamvara with Shalva. Shalva was also present there. So she would have gone and garlanded Shalva and got married to him. He would have known that and he would have left her there and gone. So not knowing that, not having that information, he took her also. The moment he got the information, he got her escorted to Shalva and said, be happy with him.
But then why he is not asked? Okay, you said she never came back to him.
She never
But
came
sir,
back to him.
even if she didn't come back to him, and he knew that whatever is happening with Amba, so like I have this doubt that
Why didn't he go and tell her to come back to him?
Why did not he try to protect her from all the anger and agony that she went through in this tapasya?
He would have, this is a very, this question comes to mind, but immediately you can see that if somebody doesn't want to come to you, then how can you advise them? You can advise somebody who is open to receiving your advice. Otherwise, it would just bounce back at you.
But out of
But he got-
responsibility,
out of-
when
because
we
he
are
took
saying
her-
that
took her
he
to-
Because
took
even out of
responsibility.
responsibility also, the moment he realized that she doesn't want to stay with him, he let her go.
Mhm.
And now if she had made up her mind that I'll go back to Bhishma and look for his shelter, if she had done that, immediately he would have taken her back. You can see
But
from
he
his
already
thinking.
got her.
But after going away, she was having a hard time. We all
Correct.
saw this in
So
the
he
story,
was, from
but
his,
she was having a hard time.
so from his perspective, he was welcome to receiving her back if she wanted to come back to him. But she did not want to go back to him. She is in the mood of taking revenge on him. Try to
But-
understand that.
But sir, she was
When
taking
somebody is
better-
when somebody is in the mood of taking revenge on you, if that person is neutral and suffering, you can go to that person and say, I see you are suffering. Maybe I can help you. Can I help you in this way? Then you leave it to that person to take your help. But she's not even neutral. She's in a mood of vengeance. She's already decided that, this guy is the cause of my problem. I should eliminate him. She's in that mood. In that mood, how can you tell her? Now, Parashurama could have told her. Parashurama could have got her out of that mood of vengeance. And he could have told her that, no, give up that thinking of vengeance. Bhishma is not like that. He is my disciple. You go stay with him. He will take care of you. You become one of the, princes and he will get you married. If Parashurama had told that and convinced her, which I don't think he would have been able to, but maybe if he had done that, then probably she would have gone back and Bhishma would have accepted her. But in what mood did Parashurama take her there? Parashurama took her there. Or he went there. He went to Bhishma and said, you have to marry her. And it did not work out because he has taken a vrata, right? So the whole thing is happening in a hostile manner. When somebody is having hostility towards you, you cannot go to them and say, I'll give you help.
I agree to
It
that.
is not practical. Even
I
today, it's
agree to
not
that
practical.
thought.
Even that time or this time.
Sir,
I felt like somewhere if this episode wouldn't have happened, it would have been impossible to defeat Bhishma in the Mahabharata.
Yeah.
Because this was the only reason. Somewhere it is the Leela of the god that this is
Yes.
This would be the reason.
Yeah,
to-
that's it. So that's what we eventually see. See, when we come at the level of at one level, you can sit on the sofa also. At one level, we analyze like this, but at a higher level, we see that destiny
Yes.
playing out.
When you see the
Yeah.
whole picture,
Yeah.
then you understand, okay, because Bhishma being a person who is like the topmost of, like, as we learn, that he learned Vedas, he learned everything, he was good in everything. So his understanding of everything was very high.
Yeah.
The only flaw could be put here was this particular episode, because of which the Maha, otherwise if you take this episode out of the question,
Yeah.
you don't find any way to kill Bhishma.
Because
Until
one
unless-
law made him.
Yeah, so from that perspective, yes, for Bhishma's eventual liberation from Bhuloka, from Manushyatva,
Yes.
back to Devatva. Liberation means not Mukti, but this Mukti, where you go from Manushyatva to Devatva, back to Devatva. This was required.
But still, there used to be a process of choosing the best word in a swamvar, like it was there in the case of Draupadi.
That is one of the processes, not the only process.
Was
There are,
it not there in the case of these three daughters?
it was. It was the first one that the father of the three daughters arranged for the three daughters.
Like there used to be a competition in the case of Draupadi, also there was a competition there.
So in the Mahabharata, there are multiple processes described by which a Kshatriya girl can get married. One of them is the Swayamvara, one of those multiple processes. Another one is this. Another one is where a king who feels that he is qualified to, take care of her, a properly established king, not some army on the street, somebody who's like Bhishma, some stature, somebody with some, maybe Shalva also, comes there and takes her away, tells her, you come with me, and she goes with that person. Okay. We don't hear about Bhishma dragging, just like Draupadi was dragged by her hair. As Mahabharata explains how Dushasana caught hold of her hair. She ran away from him. She was actually in her menstrual cycle. She caught her hair and dragged her on the floor. And she was dragged like an animal into the assembly. Okay, Draupadi was mistreated, completely mistreated. She was not mistreated here. Amba or Ambika, none of the three girls were mistreated. They were brought with respect. But that's called apahara, because you're taking them away from the process which was meant to happen. Swayamvara was meant to happen. But now a king comes and displaces that process with another process, which is also a legitimate process. You follow? You understood? So Bhishma applies the alternative process because he sees no point in going through a Swayamvara. For whatever reason, whatever his thinking was at that point of time. If Bhishma was present today and he was willing to answer our questions, he would probably explain why he decided to switch that process. Instead of bringing Vichitravirya, he himself came and decided to take them away. Yeah.
I agree to the hostility point that you said. I totally I'm in acceptance with that. Also the Leela point that you said. But can you help me with understanding that the responsibility part that you said, that he took the girls with responsibility. So in case of Amba, where exactly can we see that? If I'm missing any point. Like how do we see
Just
that
like with the case of, he took them in the same way that,
where did he exactly?
just like do you see that in Ambika and Ambalika?
Yes.
Yeah, so same. He took them the way that he took Ambika, Ambalika. He had no idea that she has an affair with Shalva, right? He has no idea in his mind. He doesn't know that she is having an affair with Shalva, she wants to marry him. If he knew that.
After the confrontation, I'm saying. After she confronted him, what exactly did
She doesn't confront him at all.
She told, right? That
That's not a confrontation. She just goes and admits to him.
Right.
She goes and admits to him that, look, you're preparing to get me married to Vichitravirya, but I don't want to marry him. I want to marry Shalva. I already have a relationship with him.
Right.
Immediately he responds. That's responsible. He doesn't try to convince her to not go to Shalva. He could have done that, no? Suppose he was not so responsible. He could have said, no, don't go to Shalva. He's a useless guy. I've got you a better suitor. He's my own brother. I'll give you so much. He could have done all that. Or he could have just said, I won't let you go. You are now my property. If he thought of her like an object, like we would like to interpret it now, he could have just said, I won't let you go. You are now my property.
So maybe
Who is Shalva? Who the hell is Shalva? I have got rid of him. No? It is very responsible. He gives her that full respect. She gives her that full freedom. He says that, oh, I didn't know this. I didn't know that you have an affair with him. And I respect your right to have an affair with somebody else. Please go. And he escorts. He gives an escort to her. She probably goes in a royal fashion to Shalva's palace. Now, if he was not responsible, he definitely wouldn't have done that.
And from there on, he was on his own and she was on her own.
Yeah. Now, I can surmise from the way in which Bhishma's thinking is described, and the way he is describing it to Duryodhana, you can see that nowhere in the description, Bhishma is afraid of what Amba can do to him, nor is he angry with her. He doesn't have a reverse vengeance. See, normally if you hear that somebody...
He was neutral.
Yeah. So if we hear that, if you and I, let's say, if we hear that somebody is angry with us, then how would our attitude towards that person become?
Reciprocation.
We would reciprocate. We would also start feeling angry towards that person. We would think that fellow is this, that. We would start abusing that person, right? But Bhishma doesn't do that. He describes her, the way he describes her to Duryodhana in that conversation, he's describing her in very gentle words. He says she went through this. He describes her with adjectives which are very pleasing adjectives, which is worthy of a princess.
But maybe in this scenario, it is not in his purview to protect her
Exactly.
from her agony.
Simply because she does not give scope for that. She has taken a position by which it would be futile for him to even go to her
and try to protect her.
Yeah, no guru will do that. A guru, let's say this is something like a guru-shishya relationship in some sense, or a father-daughter relationship. But a guru towards a shishya will not go if the shishya has a hostile relationship towards him. The guru will wait for the shishya to come to him with a proper attitude and then will give him instruction. So he is willing to protect, but she is not open to it. She has made up her mind that this guy is the cause of my misery. She is not able to, that's why it said Mudagrahin, this tamasic tapasya. You see what tapasya she is doing. Extreme vengeance. She doesn't even think, is it practically possible for me to do that kind of tapasya and get that power? And eventually she doesn't get the power. She is not killing him, no. She just becomes an instrument.
Maybe that emotion of aggression is overcharged.
Yeah.
She's overcharged.
She goes into a complete false conception of herself.
Although she analyzes in the beginning,
Yeah.
all the four actors,
Hmm.
but she zeroes in on the wrong actor.
Yeah. So what would have been, I mean, if you ask from perspective of dharma, today we are going through a situation where we are put in a very unfortunate, so there's no doubt that Amba went through very unfortunate times, very troubling times that nobody should go through. But if we are put in a very uncomfortable situation, then what should our thinking be? One is for sure, it should definitely not be a sense of revenge on somebody else. Somebody might have been an instrument in our suffering. Okay, so Shastra doesn't advise us to have a mentality of revenge or vengeance. Now, we should, instead of trying to find out who is responsible and blame that person, the correct way would be to find out how to resolve the problem, regardless of who is to blame. Let somebody be the person who is to blame, who can be blamed, legitimately blamed. Okay, that can be done. Blaming can be done. But beyond the blame, how do we resolve the problem? That should be the focus. That's what we should learn from here. Resolve the problem. What is the problem here? Amba should find a proper shelter, a proper suitor, and live a proper normal life, which was very much possible. That was very much possible within the purview of dharma, right? But she doesn't take that part. She doesn't say, how should I resolve the problem? For her, resolving the problem at that point of time is only to kill Bhishma. Now, by killing Bhishma, will she get a suitor? She will not get. Right? Even if Bhishma deserves to be killed, even if he deserves to be killed, but merely by killing him, her marriage will not be guaranteed, no? Her
Maybe
marriage...
that sadness of separation was still like over her. Sadness of separation from Shalva.
Yeah.
So that is why she was not able to think in the right direction. Because
more than the sadness of...
he confronted her that I don't want you anymore. And she could not take it. So
more than that sadness, if it's merely sadness of separation, then like people like the tapasvis speak to you, then that sadness can be overcome over time. But here it is that thing turning into anger, the thing called anger. See, Bhagavan says in the Gita, in the 3rd chapter, we have discussed this many times, I'll repeat it again. Kama esha krodha esha rajoguna samudbhavaha. When rajoguna is too much, then kama first comes. Kama is desire, lust, to enjoy something. So here you can see there is kam that I want to marry Shalva. Now, if you see the same shloka as it goes forward, Kama esha krodha esha rajoguna samudbhavaha mahashano mahapapma vidyenam hevairinam. So that kama turns into krodha when the object of the kama is denied to you. That's exactly what happens to her. Her object of kam is Shalva. She wants that Shalva for herself. And that is denied to her by Shalva himself.
And it turns into anger.
And turns into anger. That exactly that what happens. And that anger is so much that she is not able to think clearly. Her anger prevents her from thinking clearly, and she ends up going down the wrong path. She could have resolved it by, if she was not at least that angry, but maybe much less angry than that. A little bit of anger comes to all of us, right? But then we talk to somebody and they calm us down, and then that anger calms down. We are able to think clearly. But in that case, it doesn't happen for her. Even though people talk to her, they are not able to calm her down, and she then doesn't listen to anybody.
And harms herself.
Yeah. Even in Parashuram, when Parashuram is not able to kill Bhishma or even defeat Bhishma, even at that point of time, her intelligence doesn't work. She doesn't say that Bhishma cannot be killed. I will kill Bhishma. That much arrogance coming from anger, right? Madness. Anger makes a person mad, actually. So we see that madness happening in her. We do sympathize with her for her unfortunate situation. But we should recognize through the lens of the Bhagavad-Gita, because we're studying the Bhagavad-Gita. Through the lens of the Gita, we see where she has gone wrong, path that she has gone into. Okay, now for the want of time, I will not take, I see some more hands gone up, but please bear with me. We will continue in the next class. We will take the doubts in the next class and try to see where we can take this forward. And I have to stop now for today. We've been 2 hours into the class. But I thank you for the questions and for the good discussion that we have had. I'll close with our Mangalam, Antya Mangalam.
Thank you, sir.
Sure, please tell me.
That it is easier to follow looking at her life from the lens of evolution. Like it is easier to follow dharma when everything is going good.
Yeah.
The real challenge comes when there is a
Yeah, when
different-
things go wrong. Yeah, it applies even today. Yeah,
Taking the
absolutely.
path of tamasic is in a difficult situation. You cannot keep your mind to follow a sattvic tapas. It's natural or easier for us to follow tapas.
Fall into that path. Yes, absolutely. I second his thing. Vedant just said that, normally when we live, it's easy to think about dharma, or in today's context, we think about being ethical and legal and so on. But when difficulties come, then naturally our mind goes towards the unethical or the illegal, and we become angry, we lose our temper. At that time, it's difficult to say that you should follow dharma. I agree with you, but that is where the challenge comes for us.
That is for her for her life.
Yeah.
Like the later on, because there is an implications in future also for it. If you're not following the path of dharma, then like if we look at her life at the later stage.
Yeah.
It's looking at the evolution of her own life.
Yeah.
Taking the tamasic mark of tapas.
Yeah, absolutely.
The reaction.
Absolutely. And we see that happening to us also sometimes and to our friends.
Experience, so that is why I was able to relate.
Person like?
As a personal experience.
Personal experience, absolutely.
You've directed your hostility towards someone you want to, maybe there's something, so at that time, these thoughts and all of these things dominate, and you don't have the capacity to self-control or self-regulate and bring us into a sattvic path. So in the long run, I've seen that there are certain implications which I have personally faced. So I was able to relate to her story.
That problem-solving mentality goes on the second preference.
Not about problem solving, I would say, but it's about
clear thinking.
Yes.
Clear thinking.
Logical line of thought.
You can harm someone and still solve the problem, but
absolutely. Clear thinking leaves us at that time. I agree, and I will empathize with you because I too have been through difficult situations. But yes, so the answer is that yes, that's why Shastra guides us and says that by reading Shastra regularly, continuously reading and contemplating on its meaning, it helps us develop that immunity towards difficult situations. Not that difficult situations will not come. Difficult situations will come to anybody in this world, like they're coming to Bhishma now and to Amba also. But it helps us to cope. Shastra helps us to cope. That's why Narayana Pandit says in the Hitopadesha, he says, Sarvasya lochanam shastram yasya nasti andheva saha. Shastra is the eye for everybody. Sarvasya lochanam shastram. And one who doesn't have this eye, yasya nasti andheva saha. Such a person is actually blind. Real blindness is not about physically being blind, but not knowing what the Shastra says. Learning the Shastra and living by the Shastra. So by regular reading of the Shastra, daily reading of the Shastra, contemplating on its meanings, taking inspiration from the Shastra, we develop the strength to cope with difficult situations when we don't allow our mind to go into that tamasic path, which unfortunately happened to this girl. Thank you for bringing that point, and now I will officially conclude. Om Swasti Prajabhyah Paripalayantām Nyayena Margena Mahim Mahishaah Gobrahmanebhyo Shubhamastu Nityam Lokas Samastas Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Tad Vishno Paramam Padagum Sada Pashyanti Surayah Divi Vachakshuratatam Tad Vipraso Vipanyavo Jagruvagum Sassamindhate Vishno Yat Paramam Padam Parya Anantarayaya Sarvastamoti Ratra Uttama Bhavati Sarvasyaptyai Sarvasya Jityai Sarvameva Tena Apnoti Sarvam Jayati. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Dhanyavada. Punarmila. Thank you for bearing with the long class today. I'm happy that all of you stayed back and took part in the class also, in the discussion also. We'll continue in the next session.